Look, Nintendo isn't perfect, but compared to what PlayStation's been doing this past couple of weeks, what are you doing? They're starting to look pretty good. Now, that isn't to say that Nintendo hasn't made boneheaded decisions in the past, and will almost certainly do so in the future as well. But I did want to highlight some of the really good things that they've done in recent times that are worth celebrating. That's right, physical media, because the Sony basically confirmed that PlayStation 6 won't support physical media at all since discs are going away. Nintendo, with the Switch 2 only being a year or so old, effectively made a decade-long commitment to continue to support this as a medium, which is freaking awesome. So years beyond the PS6, you can count on the fact that you'll be able to buy physical versions of some of your favorite games. Okay, you may have noticed that I said some of your favorite games and not all of your favorite games, because we of course have to talk about what was previously public enemy number one, being game key cards, which, as it turns out, aren't looking so bad these days. Now, I want to stress I am not the biggest fan of these things, though I do acknowledge that they seem to be a necessary evil, because what they allow publishers to do is provide a physical form, to a degree, of games that may not otherwise get it, especially in this game's case, which Sony has claimed would have been basically impossible otherwise. And without game key cards, it's very likely those games will only be released digital anyway, which would be even worse for consumers. Because even though game key cards may still be tied to a digital download, which, you know, when the servers go offline in the future could be a big problem, for now, they still give you the same physical control of any other physical game. Meaning, you can lend this to a friend, you can sell it to a store, you can buy used ones if you want for cheaper and play them on your Switch 2. None of which you'll presumably be able to do in Sony's digital-only future. So even if you hate these, you have to admit it could be far worse. Now, one of the biggest concerns about digital games, including game key cards, is what happens when the servers go offline, because unless you already have the games downloaded onto your system, you're kinda screwed, and that straight up sucks. And yet, that hasn't happened yet for any Nintendo platform to date. You can boot up your Wii U right now, if anyone happens to have one, and re-download any of the games you have purchased before. That applies to your Wii as well. A nearly 20-year-old platform allows you to still go online and re-download any games you have previously purchased. Heck, you can even still download the Skyward Sword update channel to fix a glitch that some people had with the game. What people were warning 8 years ago was your last chance to download it, but you can still do it 8 years later. They had the perfect opportunity to shut it down a few years ago when the Wii shop went offline for unknown reasons, something technically, presumably, for a few months, but it came back as if nothing had happened. Now, obviously, that's going to come to an end at some point, but the fact that Nintendo kept the servers alive for a 20-year-old platform is commendable. Even when it comes to digital games, Nintendo's got a big leg up on PlayStation because they actually allow you to do something almost no one else does, lend them to other people. Now granted, you both have to be physically near each other, but Nintendo still basically made a digital version of this.
Thanks.
Ironic, isn't it? Plus, you'll automatically get your digital game returned to you in 2 weeks, meaning you no longer have to chase down a friend that forgot to return your game. Speaking of digital games, Nintendo did something pretty cool recently that I have to say I was skeptical of initially, and yet they completely won me over, being the fact that any new Switch 2 digital games would be cheaper than their physical counterparts. And we've already seen this in action 3 times, with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, Star Fox, and the upcoming Splatoon Raiders, all of which are $10 cheaper than the physical versions, and that's freaking awesome! That is literally something almost every gamer has been asking for forever. Because obviously, if you're not getting a physical product, shouldn't it be cheaper? And Nintendo was like, yeah, it should! And on a related topic, variable pricing. Remember that phrase? The one that everyone's making fun of around the launch of the Switch 2, when Nintendo used it to kind of defend the launch of Mario Kart World at $80, which everyone feared was going to set a new precedent for $80 AAA games from that point forward? Well, not only have we not seen another $80 game from Nintendo since, excluding Switch 2 editions, we've actually seen the widest array of prices Nintendo's ever used for brand new games. Consider this, beyond Mario Kart World, we've now had DK Bonanza, Kirby Air Riders, and Mario Tennis Fever at $70, though Mario Tennis should arguably be cheaper. We've had Yoshi and the Mysterious Book and Tomodachi Life Living the Dream at $60, the brand new Star Fox at $50, Rhythm Heaven Groove at $40, and Drag X Drive at $20. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd still love to see more games at those lower price points, but the fact that we haven't seen another $80 game since, and we've seen multiple brand new games come in at price points substantially lower, isn't just a good thing, but is shocking by Nintendo standards. Now let's talk hardware prices, or more accurately, hardware price increases, because as you've probably heard, AI is screwing everything up, meaning any piece of technology that uses those hardware components have basically had to raise their prices in order to stay viable, and game consoles were no exception. But if you take a look at the competitors here, Nintendo ends up looking pretty good by comparison. So, starting with Xbox, they launched the Series X at $500, but as of August 1st, that same piece of hardware is going to cost you $800. That's a 60% increase. What? PS5 looks a little bit better by comparison, launched at $500. For now, it's only going to cost $650, though that's still a 30% increase from launch, which, you know, in any other time sounds insane. But then we had the Switch 2, which launched at $450, but as of September 1st, will cost $500. You know, that still sucks, but that's only 11% jump as compared to 30 and 60. That's pretty great by comparison. On top of it all, Nintendo gave us by far the most heads up of the price increase, meaning if you wanted to pick up a game console, you had more time now than any of the competitors to do so. So, Xbox, for instance, gave only about months of heads up in regards to the most recent price increase. PlayStation 5 gave 6 days. 6 freaking days. People didn't have time to get a paycheck in order to actually buy a PS5 if they wanted to before the price went up. Nintendo, though, 117 days. That's almost 4 months of notice for a price increase. So much so that even though it feels like they've already increased the price from how long it's been since the announcement, it still won't go up until September 1st. So you have plenty of time to pick one up if you want to before the price increase goes into effect. But even if you miss out, again, it's only a $50 price increase, which isn't nothing, but by comparison to the competitors, is pretty darn good. Similarly, Nintendo's online prices are shockingly reasonable, even if they should still be free. Point is though, if you want to get the lowest tier online pass just to play games online on any platform, that's going to cost you $10 a month on Xbox with their monthly plan. PS5, $11 a month. Switch 2, $4. Wow. Alternatively, if you pay for a year in advance, that's going to cost you $80 on both PlayStation and Xbox. On Switch 2 or any Switch, $20. That's literally a quarter of the cost. And if that weren't cheap enough, Nintendo is the only one to offer a family plan, which at the cost of $35 a year lets you split that account with up to 8 others, which if everyone's paying equally, comes out to 36 cents per month per person. And that's cheap. That's practically free. And speaking of free, not only is practically the entire Switch library backwards compatible on Nintendo Switch 2, but Nintendo has also provided updates for 20 other biggest games for free, offering better visuals, resolutions, frame rates, and more at no extra cost to you. And finally, Nintendo's also the leader of this generation when it comes to accessories, or more specifically, not requiring you to buy more of them, at least for now. And I can prove it, because I'm recording this on my Switch 2 right now, which is why the frame rate went to hell. And I'm doing so without using the official camera, because I'm holding it in my hand. Obviously I'm not using it, I'm actually using my normal PC webcam, or GH5, simply by plugging a USB cable from my camera into my Switch 2. And it's working flawlessly. I mean, aside from the fact that the frame rate sucks, but that's not the camera's fault, that's just how the Switch 2 works. And that's freaking awesome. Or conversely, you can use your Nintendo Switch webcam, which I'm holding in my hand right now, on your PC. So if you have one, it's not locked to your Nintendo Switch 2, you can use it for other purposes as well, which is actually pretty darn cool. And guess what? You can't do any of that with, say, your PlayStation 5. If you want a webcam for the system, it has to be the official one, as nothing else will work. And likewise, if you want to use that webcam for other purposes, like on your PC, good luck, as it's not officially supported. Now, there are ways to make it work, but it's definitely not plug and play like the Nintendo Switch camera was. And that's not all, as practically every Nintendo Switch accessory, like Joy-Cons and Pro Controllers, will work just fine on your Switch 2, meaning there's really no reason to buy more controllers if you already have a Switch 1, as it's got you covered, unless you need those Switch 2 exclusive features like the mouse. Otherwise, the original controllers work just fine. And again, that's not the case with PS5, because if you want to play PS5 games, you're going to need a PS5 controller. And again, that's another huge thing Nintendo's got going for them. Also, gotta give a shout out to Nintendo for not removing the headphone jack, which of course is all the rage these days on smartphones, tablets, and that. Which is especially ironic considering Nintendo was arguably the first company to do so over 20 years ago with the Game Boy SP. Because while every other prior Game Boy had a headphone jack somewhere, this one didn't have it anywhere unless you bought a secondary accessory, plugged it into the power port, and you could use it that way, which meant you couldn't charge your system and listen to your headphones at the same time either. It kinda sucked. Woo, so that was what, 10 or 11 really good things Nintendo's done recently, and I have to say that after these past couple of weeks, Nintendo's starting to look pretty darn good. Now that's, again, not to say that they're perfect, I'm sure I'll have more issues with them in the future, But right now, it's really no contest in that I think Nintendo's by far the most pro-consumer gaming company of the major three at the least in the hardware business right now, which is, you know, a pretty great thing with how things are heading. But we'll see how things shake out here. So with that, everyone, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. Bye.